Hello and a warm welcome back. Today is all about bridges and side lying positions. I think bridges are something that's kind of quintessentially Pilates, and I'm going to teach you a really good technique to get your bridges feeling strong and feeling useful. Often they feel a little bit easy or a little bit, kind of purposeless, so we're going to talk through that today. So first things first, let's get on to a little bit of a warm-up. If you would like to come to sit on your bottom, and we'll begin knocking the knees side to side. So you can allow your hips and your pelvis to gently roll left to right, taking those knees over to the left, over to the right, just propping yourself up on the hands to make this more comfortable. No real technique required. I'd suggest fairly wide feet. That will give you a greater range at the hips. And then we're going to repeat, but bring your sit bones and your bottom to the mat and keep that down. So as you take your knees side to side, we're no longer lifting sit bones off the mat. That just gives us basically a more steady pelvis and means that the movement actually comes from the thigh bone moving in the hip joints. Okay, so you get a little bit more, a more true movement at the hip instead of the pelvis and the spine just wiggling side to side. And bringing that back through to the center. We're going to swing around into mermaid seats. Now, if you don't like the mermaid seats, you're welcome to come to your butterfly legs instead. The mermaid is sitting on one hip with the legs swung around to the side. Okay, the butterfly, if you prefer, is to sit on your sit bones with your feet together and your knees out like butterfly wings. Let's begin with one hand down beside the hip, so whichever hip you're supporting with, you take that hand down beside it, and we're going to take our side bend up and over, and our inhale to return. Inhale to return now. So this is a nice warm up for side lying because we're getting a nice bit of heat and movement into the sides of the body. And one more time there. Lovely, bringing that to swing around to the other side, or if you're still in your butterfly legs, you can stay there, placing your hand beside the hip and up and over into a mermaid side bends. Inhale, release. Exhale to bend. Nice. So just framing the face with the arm, keeping a nice width across the collarbones and across the shoulder girdle there. And a couple more. Beautiful. And returning back to the center. Bringing yourself back to a seated position, nice and comfy, and start to just tuck your chin down towards your chest and rolling your chin left to right across the chest. Finding a little bit of movement and stretching to the neck. Just taking these nice and slowly. You might hit some crunches or some clunks. That's okay, as long as they feel all right, we'll move through them. And then we'll bring the chin back to the center. Taking a nice reach up with the arms. Turn your palms inwards and let the backs of the hands circle down. So again, taking that circle, let the palms turn inwards, backs of the hands circle down. And again, hands up, palms inwards as we circle. Last time, arms up, palms inwards as we circle. This time we're doing that the other way. So this time we'll take our arms into a forward reach. You can lean forwards and stretch up. Palms outward turned as you release. So again, get a nice lean and a reach. Palms turn out as we return. Lean forwards with a reach, palms turn out as you return, and again, lean forwards, scoop up, and palms turn out as you return. Nice. So we're going to bring ourselves onto our side lying position next. If you've got a small cushion or a yoga block, that would be really helpful, just so that you can find some different positions to keep your neck and your head comfortable. Coming to lie down on your side. If you need to, you can always put some padding under the hips. Some of us have bony hips or, you know, bursitis in hips. If you are someone who has a little bit of bursitis going on, these side lying exercises probably aren't for you. You can normally modify by rolling over onto your back and bringing similar movements into that nice supine position instead. So first things first, we're not going to worry about the lower body too much. We want to get the neck comfortable. So there's a few options. One option is to prop up on the elbow. Now, this is great. It does mean you have to think about lifting your rib cage away from the mat to find a more neutral, straight spine. It also means that you need to think about staying nice and strong out the shoulder rather than kind of sinking and slouching into the shoulder. So there's quite a lot of work here. You've also got to keep your head kind of slightly elevated, which I find over time actually becomes quite fatiguing on the neck. So whilst I love this position for certain exercises, if we're going to be here for a long time, I prefer to bring myself a bit lower to the mat. So you could take your elbow to the mat and then rest your head on your hand. And if you can get the weight of the head nicely stacked on the hand, that can be quite supportive. Also in a class environment or when you're watching a video, it allows you to be able to look up and see around. Again, we're not in a perfectly neutral spine here, so if you're looking for perfect neutral, or more perfect neutral, you're better taking your arm, or combination of an arm on a block, or an arm on a book, to relax the head there onto the arm. Now this works if you've got happy shoulders, okay, but it also, you can see, it helps to line the neck up in line with the rest of the spine and give you that straighter, more neutral spine. So this would be preferred, but there are other options to make your life a little bit easier. So whichever position you prefer, I'm going to prop up head on hand because I do prefer this one. We're then going to think about the lower body. So if your body is long, so if we go really long straight legs, okay, the longest, straightest body you've ever had, it's quite wobbly, so there's an ability to kind of fall forwards or fall backwards here. So we need to create some width across the mat, and you can create that width either by bending your bottom knee, okay, that gives you that width and stops you falling, or alternatively you could stick with the straight legs and you could just bring your fingertips in front of the mat. Now we try not to rely too much on that hand. Think about fingertips on the mat, maybe popping your hand on a box of eggs, so hands on eggshells, just to keep that light touch. So that's how we create that stability, we increase or decrease that stability. From here we're going to take a top leg lift, so just think about gently lifting your top leg. Now when I see people first do these, they go, oh, I can go really high, and they kick up like this, okay, which is fine, you're getting some kind of nice engagement here through the outer hip. But what happens when you kick that high is your hip tends to roll back, okay? And we actually want to keep the hip, the top hip, directly above the bottom hip. So if you think about top hip above bottom hip, top knee directly above bottom knee, and ankle stacked above ankle. As you then start to lift your leg, I'd like you to think about elongating the top side of the body. So kind of lengthen your heel towards the bottom of the mat. Lengthen this hip down towards the bottom of the mat, and that has the impact of elongating this top side, this top length of your waist here. As you start to lift higher, we sometimes see this top hip collapsing into the waist or collapsing in towards the ribcage, and we get this shortening. As you get this shortening, you'll also notice, or maybe you'll notice, that your spine comes into a bit of a side bend, so it's not as neutral as we want it to be. So let's go for some leg lifts, thinking about this elongation along the top side of the waist. So we'll lift, inhale to lower, exhale to lift, creating length, inhale to lower, exhale to lift, creating length, inhale to lower, good, exhale, lengthen that hip, keep the top side of the waist really nice and strong. Drawing in through those lower abdominals, so thinking about tightening up that B-line or drawing those hips towards one another. Same as we do for normal core activation. Inhale to lower, exhale to lift. Let's go for one more. This time we're going to hold that leg up, about hip height, a little bit higher if you wish, and move into your circle. So this circle comes from the hip joints. Nice small movements, 2 more, and then we change direction. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, hold it there, and a Pilates pulse. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, lengthen, 8, 9 and 10. Relax, bring those knees in, give that bottom a little bit of a rub if that's feeling a little bit tender, a little bit well worked. Nice, let's roll over onto the other side here and have a practice at our lifts, our circles and our pulses. Remember, you've got your block or your book to help you if you want to maybe try a different neck and head position. You could try head on the arm for this one, see if you prefer it. Again, you can take the fingertips onto those eggshells in front of you and go for a super long body. Ankles stacked together, knees stacked together, and hop hip directly above bottom hip. Let's start with a nice leg lift, lengthening the top side of the waist and trying to lengthen this hip away from you towards the end of your mat. Inhale to lower the leg, exhale to lift. Inhale to lower. Remember, if you're still feeling wobbly, we said you could bend that bottom knee to give you a bit more stability and a bit more width across the mat. So let's go for about another 5, 4, 3, 2, keeping that length, we're holding on 1 and we're circling the hip, 5, 4, nice and controlled, 3, they're not big circles, 2, and 1, we're going to change direction for 1, 2, elongating the waist, 3, 4, and 5, holding there and pulse, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Lovely, release and draw in. Give that hip a bit of a rub and a bit of massage if it needs it. So there's some of the kind of more typical movements that you'd find in a Pilates side lying sequence. Obviously there's more that we can build on by adding in arms, twists, lifts, rotations, but that is typically what you would tend to see in your Pilates side lying series. Join me now by propping up onto the elbow and the forearm, so the fingertips face the long edge of the mat. Now in this position, we quite often let our hips and our bum hang backwards. I'm going to ask you to find a more neutral pelvis. So if you bring your knees more in line with your hips and your shoulders and almost kind of thrust and push the hips forwards, that will allow your lower back to become a little bit more neutral, a little bit longer, and engage around the hips. Now, this is still sort of side lying. You might see this called a side plank or a side bridge when we're doing the kneeling variation. Now, we're going to try and lift our hips off the ground. You can use your top hand on the mat. You might even need to use a fist, and we're going to use a little bit of strength to start lifting the hips away. Gently lower down. Now, important here is your shoulder health. This base shoulder, if it's in the wrong position and we're doing lots of repetitions of lifting, it's a lot of weight through that shoulder at the wrong angle. So top tips is to draw your shoulder blade kind of down the back, and that has the impact of opening across the collarbone. Okay, and we've got this nice gap between shoulder and ear, and we're not slouching into it. So shoulder blade down is a really, really good technique, and then use your hand to lift your hips. If you feel steady here, you can take the top hand onto the hip, and we're going to take just a moment here to breathe. So feel length through your crown, feel length through your tailbone, squeezing the underside of your waist. So you want to squeeze your hip joint and your rib cage towards one another to find this nice support with the obliques. Squeeze your bottom, that's it. That should feel nice and strong, and then gently lower the hips. Okay, so let's repeat that again. Draw your shoulder blade down. We're thrusting the hips forwards. You can use your hand to help you get up, and if you feel secure, bring the hand to the hip. Lengthen crown, lengthen tailbone. Squeezing the underside of the waist and squeezing through the bottom. Lifting the arm if you feel able. Good. Take a breath. And gently returning. Nice. So if you need to just come off that shoulder, give that shoulder a little bit of a pause, a little bit of a rest. We're going to go back in and we're going to explore a thoracic twist, so an upper mid-back twist. Back onto the elbow and forearm, hips forwards. Think about shoulder health, so draw that shoulder blade down, come nice and strong out the shoulder. You can use the top hand to help you up, and we're going to lift the hand. So keeping the hips high, keep squeezing the underside of the waist, tucking the tailbone down, squeezing the bottom. Take your hand and start to just thread underneath your rib cage. Now we're not moving the hips and the bottom. Inhale to lift and twist through the fingertips. Exhale, just a gentle twist in the upper and mid back. Hips still squeezing, bottom still squeezing. Let's go for one more if we've got it. These are quite tough, quite strong. And then we'll gently bring that back down, and we're going to take this to the other side. So if I can ask you to readjust. Prop yourself up on elbow and forearm, fingertips pointing towards the long edge of your mats. Again, thinking about, is my bottom hanging back? We want to bring the knees in line with the hips and the shoulders, and a gentle kind of tuck or thrust of the hips there. Think shoulder health, so drawing the shoulder blade down. That allows the collarbone to open and find this gap between the ear and the neck there. So when you're ready, you can use your top hand to help lift you initially. And keep drawing the shoulder blade down the back, maybe releasing the hands to the hip. Squeezing this distance between the rib cage and the hip to give you that oblique support. And then squeeze your bottom. You'll feel it will thrust your hips forwards a little bit, but it will give you so much more strength. Maybe releasing the arm here and take a breath, lengthening your crown, lengthening your tailbone, squeezing the underside of the waist. We'll bring these hips gently back down towards the mat. Nice, let's go again. So finding your lift up, releasing the hand if you want to, and drawing shoulder blades, both of them down your back, finding that length from your crown, down to your tailbone, squeezing the waist. Good breath. And gently releasing the hips. Coming back up to give your shoulders a little bit of a roll, and we'll take that into our thoracic twists. So I'm giving you a bit of a taste of sort of original positioning, getting the form and technique right, and then just trying to add a bit of variety into those. So let's find this final movement, lifting the hips when you're ready, maybe releasing the fingertips, long crown, long tailbone, squeezing the underside of the waist, tucking the tailbone by squeezing the bottom, and then just gently threading underneath your rib cage. Inhale, lifting tall through the fingertips, threading under the rib cage, tall through the fingertips, staying nice and strong at that base shoulder. Good, we've just got one more to finish here. Keep squeezing the bottom. And then gently releasing those hips. Wonderful. Please feel free to come back up off your side and give your shoulders a really good roll back and a nice loosen off. Now that's something that does take a little bit of practice and awareness, because it's one of those positions that as you fatigue, you tend to sink into the shoulder a bit more, and that's where our shoulder joint can come into slightly inaccurate alignment. So it's one to be really conscious of, is keeping your shoulder in the right position and maybe just reducing the repetitions, because it's just, there's so much going on that it's really easy to forget and to sink out of the right alignment with the shoulder there. Moving on to our Pilates bridges. These are absolutely brilliant once you get the technique right. So we're going to have a lie down on our mats. And we're not going to move very far to start with. If I can ask you to have your feet about hips width apart in your Pilates rest position. Now, without moving anything in particular, I want you to think about your left foot. Okay, feel your connection with your left foot on the mat. And then start pushing down through the left foot without the hips lifting, without the bottom moving, without your body responding too much. Just push down through the left foot. You will feel your leg and your hip starting to engage slightly. So feel that pressure. Keep pushing for about another 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release the pressure on the left foot. Let's go again, push down through that left foot into the mat. We're not moving anything, we're just finding some strength, some static tension, some static strength. You might feel like your left hip is wanting to come off the mat, and that's good because it will eventually, but we're just keeping it steady for now. Releasing that left foot tension, and one more time. Push down into the mat through the left foot, feel the leg engage. Again, there might be this kind of slight temptation for the left hip to kind of start lifting. And release that left foot tension. Same with the right foot now, so find your connection, find that connection between the mat and the right foot, and push down through the right foot. Again, maybe feeling the right glute, the right leg, the right hip, engaging. Pushing as hard as you can without lifting off the mat. And then release the tension. And again, push down through that right foot. We're holding for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Releasing that right foot tension. And again, pushing down for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And release that tension. So that's given us a good connection with the feet. You can start to feel the legs and the hips engaging. I want to start cueing your glutes to turn on as well here. So I want you to think about the sit bones, those bony bits underneath the fleshy bits of your bottom, your left sit bone and your right sit bone. And this might sound a bit strange, but imagine them drawing towards the middle of your pelvis. Imagine drawing them towards each other. And you might notice, oh my goodness, my glutes are engaged. And you can then just gently let that relax. Let's see if we can do that and hold it. So start drawing those sit bones, imagining they're drawing towards the middle of your pelvis or drawing towards each other and holding there. You will feel your glutes and your hips engaging. Keep drawing those sit bones together, together, together. 4, 3, 2, 1, and releasing, relaxing. Let's go one more time. Draw those sit bones together, squeezing on. So we feel this tension in the glutes. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and release. Okay, so now we've got a feel for which muscles we need to engage. We're going to take this into our bridge sequence. We need to imprint our lower back into the mat. As that happens, our hips have tilted towards us. You can feel the hip bones have tipped towards the rib cage. Then draw your sit bones together. Feel those glutes engage. Then pushing down through left foot and right foot, let's start to get this controlled lift of the hips and the spine peeling away from the mat there. So we've still got this idea of sit bones squeezing together. We're still pushing down strong through left foot and right foot, feeling those connections through the mat. And as you come back down to the mat, you're taking the top of your spine and rolling down one vertebra at a time to bring each vertebra back in touch with the mat. And then eventually sacrum and pelvis will release there at the bottom. Let's go again, imprinting that low back, please. Squeezing sit bones towards one another. Find that connection through the feet and push down through it. Starting to peel away from the mat. Still squeezing sit bones. Still pushing down through the feet. Think about your lower back here. If it feels like it's a little bit arched and compressed, think about tucking, scooping and squeezing the pelvis away from you to find a little bit more length and space in between the joints. Controlling gently back down towards the mat when you're ready. Next thing to think about is your knee position. Sometimes, me included, I'm prone to knees opening a little bit wider than hips width. Some people may be a bit prone to knees rolling in, it's like a knock knee position. Ideal position is knees hips width apart. So let's think about that on our next round. Imprinting the lower back into the mat to tilt the hips towards you. Sit bones squeeze together, push down through the feet. And we lift up towards our bridge position, checking in with our knees. Have they splayed open? Have they knocked in? Try and get them into their nice parallel hips width position. Keep lengthening the low back. And then controlling each vertebra back down towards the mat. Keeping that control until the last moment. And let's find our bridge again, imprinting your lower back, squeezing the sit bones. Pushing down through the feet as we find our bridge. We're going to hold at the top for a little bit longer this time. If your calves and hamstrings are up to this, we are going to start to find a tiptoe, so lifting the heels and then lowering the heels and control there. So lifting the heels and lowering the heels. If your lower back is starting to arch and your hips are starting to sag a little bit, scoop and tuck through the tailbone as you tiptoe up. and down. Keep squeezing sit bones together, tiptoe up and down. Keep squeezing sit bones up and down. Just 2 more please if you've got them. Keep squeezing sit bones together. Heels up, heels down, and one more time. Heels up, heels down, and gently, gently curling each vertebra back down towards the mat. Wonderful work. Stretch your toes to the bottom end of your mat. Stretch your hands up to the top end of your mat. And take that full body length reach. Stretching through the midline of the tummy. Walk your feet then to the left corner of your mat. Walk your hands to the top left corner, keeping the bottom in the middle. And stretch long. You'll feel this just stretch up the right side of the waist and the torso. See if you can breathe into the rib cage, the right side ribs. And release the tension. Walk the feet to the right corner. Walk the hands to the top right corner and lengthen through that body. Deep breaths here, breathing into the left side of the ribs if you can. And releasing tension, walking those feet back in. Bring the feet in towards the bottom and prepare for pigeon stretch. Cross your right ankle on top of the left knee. Push the right knee open, nice and wide, and hold there. For some of you, this will be plenty of stretch. You're looking for a stretch in the sort of outer right buttock, outer right hip. If you need more support than that or more intensity than that, start to bring your legs in towards the body. You can hold behind the left thigh. Try and keep your sacrum down on the mat. And breathe. Readjust or push or pull that stretch on a little bit deeper if it's eased off. Releasing there. Let's change legs. Cross the left foot or left ankle onto the right knee. Push your left knee open wide. Again, that may be plenty if you're happy to stay here. If you need that little bit more, pick your legs up. You can hold behind the right leg and pull those in towards the chest. If your sacrum and your hips have lifted off the mat, just relax them back down to the floor and pull the legs in a little bit deeper there. Take a couple of breaths. If that stretch starts to release, apply a bit more pressure, a bit more push or pull. And then releasing the legs away from you. Gently rolling yourself over onto your side to push yourself up to a seated position. Come to sit somewhere comfortable, whatever that is for you. So that concludes our bridges and side lying for today. I will see you on the next session for a little bit more as we move on to our 5th day of our 7-day series. Thank you for joining me.